recently stumbled over the first ever iPad mini released way back in 2013. After a bit of factory reset and stuff, I managed to get it in the working condition, and this is how it fared. I am Devatan and you're watching Tech Aisle. Let's begin. This is one of the few things that has not showed its age and is still perfectly fine. It is an almost 8-inch device, or 7.9 to be precise. It is also quite lightweight as per tablet standards at 308 grams. Although I didn't find after much searching what the back panel is made of, but since the back panel looks similar to the iPhone 6s, which is made of aluminium, I think it's a safe bet to say that this one is also made of aluminium. Since being made of aluminium, it doesn't attract fingerprints, and that makes it so much easier to use. You have decently clicky buttons and the top placed power button. The back panel is curved at the edges, and that makes it much easier to use. One thing that I'm disappointed by is that the haptic feedback on this one is pretty bad. In fact, I even doubt if it has haptic engine. From the back side to the front side, we are greeted by this beautiful display. On specs, it is not quite a 1080p display, a little bit over 720p. But if you open YouTube and other services, it actually supports 1080p. So I guess there is some upscaling involved. But the pixel density is very low here at 162 ppi. Despite being an IPS LCD display, the colors here are quite decent. I like this display even now, and that is quite an achievement. This is one of the worst things about using an old device. It initially shipped with iOS 6 and it has got 3 major updates and is now sitting at iOS 9.3.5. That is fine, but what is not is that if you hop on to the App Store, then you will find that majority of the apps need iOS 10 to be able to be downloaded. That simply means that many of the apps would not be downloaded if you are on iOS 9.3.5 or, for that fact, anything under iOS 10. But there is a way to download some apps though. If you have already installed an app in another Apple device, then you can hop on to the purchased and, if in luck, download a version of the app compatible with your device. But some apps might not be optimized and they end up looking weird, like Instagram right here. Now to performance. This is powered by the Apple A5 Bionic chip, which, to give context, was Apple's flagship processor from 2011 and was used in the Apple iPhone 4S. But this is a 45nm chipset. That just shows how much we have improved in terms of chipset technology and manufacturing. But we have another huge problem here. This does not ship with crazy 16GB of RAM, not 8GB of RAM, not even 4GB of RAM, not even 2 or 1, but 512MB of RAM. That is coupled with either 16, 32 or 64GB of storage. This is the base one with 16GB of storage. But the storage has not been such a huge problem, because since very few apps are able to be downloaded in the first place, once you get all your basic apps, then you wouldn't be downloading much apps. The performance of course is very bad, and the RAM management too is quite bad. It could only keep maybe 1 or 2 apps in the memory. The software and performance has degraded quite a bit. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're liking this content, then it would be hugely appreciated if you could hit that like button, and also consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon if you're new here. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the video. The iPad mini has a 4490 mAh battery, which in 2020 standards is quite good and is one of the better parts of the device. I could easily get 1.5 to 2 days of battery life with this thing. But the charger provided here is a 5-watt charger, and it almost takes 4 to 5 hours to charge this thing up. This is also a place where we have come forward in the last 7 years. For audio, it has a stereo speaker like almost every tablet out there, and also the beloved headphone jack. The audio output from the headphone jack was very good as expected from an Apple device. As for the speakers, which are stereo as mentioned previously, I wished it could get a little bit louder. I'm not saying that it is not loud, but if it was a little bit louder, then it would have been way better. cameras would be one of your last priority when choosing a tablet, because you would not want to go to places taking this huge device and photographing with it. So I thought the photos and videos taken by this thing would be pretty bad, as almost every tablet out there. But this one surprised me a little. It is slightly above what I thought it would be like. Oh, by the way, this one has a 5 megapixel rear camera and a 1.2 megapixel for the front one. The rear one can shoot 1080p videos at 30 fps while the front one at 720p. When given good amount of light, this can take some decent looking photos and videos. The dynamic range is very good if you turn on the HDR, and the colors are accurate and natural looking. The only downside is that it falls apart when the lights go down, and there's no night mode as you would expect now. Here, check out some samples. Of course, I cannot recommend this to anyone simply because it is 7 years old at this point. But one thing that I can do is just demonstrate how far they have come in technology. We got better security with Face ID and Touch ID. We got AMOLED displays with a 1440p resolution. We got a better software experience. We got a way better chipset from 45nm to 7nm. We came way forward in terms of RAM, from 512MB of RAM to 12 and even 16GB of RAM. We got higher resolution cameras from 5 megapixel to 108 megapixel. We got 4K and even 8K video recording. We got better and larger batteries, but sadly we lost the headphone jack. Alright, that is it for today. Hope you guys liked it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.